Lots happening out there this week. Obviously, we got the end of the week election, federal election, a lot of electioneering happening, and what actually might change as a result of that. I guess Trump's latest comments on keep the trade tension really in focus in the spotlight. China decides to exempt some US goods. China's saying the US isn't negotiating with them, so it's a bit of backwards and forwards. So I'm not quite sure what's happening there. I think we've seen a big rally in copper on the back of what's happening, and with the tariffs in copper, seeing exactly how that's going to evolve, in terms of the price action. But generally speaking, a bit of a shortage in copper, perhaps in the US. Anyway, time will tell on that. Let's see more. Obviously, there's a lot more talk happening, and on the tariffs and what that means to the economies. This week also we've got some good reportings. We've got their first ever dividend, which I thought was quite interesting. Also, I've noticed that they've offered they're about to do a $70 billion buyback of shares. So they're just consolidating a lot there, obviously because of all they got profits, or they want to consolidate their balance sheet. This week also we've got Amazon, Apple and Meta all tipped to report their earnings. If there's anything to do with how Alphabet reported, then this could actually help the Nasdaq sort of regain some of that lost ground. And it'd be quite interesting to see, even with all the tariffs, how the tech-heavy Nasdaq will actually perform, because it has been under a lot of pressure. So that could be an interesting thing to stay focused on. In the States also, we've had the Michigan Consumer Sentiments confidence number that was revised higher to 52.2. Remember, we were looking at it a lot lower at about 50.8. And remember also in March it was 57, so it's come down a fair whack. And I think that's, if anything, is going to tell us a little bit about how the economy's going. Also, not really confident about the year ahead inflation expectations. That jumped to 6.5%. That was the highest since we've seen in 1981. So to me, that is an issue. Obviously, we're all thinking tariffs. This is what they're happening. It's going to be inflationary. Let's see how it all unfolds. Also, remember, this is when you look at the way the economies behave, this is the policy that's been put in place, and the economy will react. But we'll also, when we're investing, we'll start to think, well, have we missed the boat? Is the Dow going to go back to record highs? Now, clearly it's not, but that's the way we'll perceive ourselves as traders, because we'll sort of say, we're missing out, so we've got to get on. And then all of a sudden, we get some negative data come out, and then the prices start to go lower again. So when you look at it from a trading perspective, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, a bear market, and a lot of people have seen a bear market. This is how a bear market behaves. It sort of gets optimistic about what's happening, and then all of a sudden data comes down, and then data comes out, it's negative, and then they start to sell off, or the market or the index just rolls over again. So expect this to be part of the trend whilst we've got this administration in play, whilst we're still trying to work out what tariffs mean. But remember, they are negative. So you won't see the markets trading to record highs. And I think that's the fact, Ben. And you need more time for these tariffs to work their way through the economies, and in a way which will show that it'll be negative. So I think just remember that when you are trading, try not to get too long around these levels. Okay, so let's have a look. We've talked about that. The trade tensions, we know they're back in there between the US and China. That's something there. We know we've got some good reportings this week, so that's going to be quite important. We've got a lot of economic data out this week as well, which will be quite important to keep an overall view, particularly out of the States. In China, all eyes are on the April PMI, Purchasing Managers Index there, and let's see how that unfolds. Because remember, China just moved. We get the good economy, we get some good economic numbers, then all of a sudden she comes down again. But it's just stuffing around at the bottom there, so nothing quite clear there, which is a bit of concern. Okay, let's go back. We'll back onto the election. It's going to be tight, and I think there's no argument about that. When you look at Albanese's core policies, the platform which he wants to try and get, I think the major one which is going to appeal to a lot of people is the healthcare, where he's looking to expand Medicare through his 1-800 Medicare. That's a free 24/7, and also the other policy about 90% of GP consultations to be bulk billed by 2030. I think that's a vote-winning policy. Also, I like the future made in Australia policy, trying to get that strength in that domestic manufacturing, which has been decimated. And I think if we get a silver lining out of what's happening in America, it means that hopefully Australia will then refocus on its own manufacturing efforts, and that to me will be a very good key. When I look at Peter Dutton's core policies for 2025, not really happy about them, to tell you the truth. Cost of living, he's going to try and bribe us with $1,200. There's a little bit of access to superannuation, first-time home buyers. Once again, I don't see this as just feel good politics. Energy, I don't think that nuclear energy thing is going to look at it. And he wants to spend $21 billion to increase the spending, military spending. Overall, I don't really see his policies that. I'm impartial to both, but I do believe at the moment that Albanese will sort of probably edge ahead. One thing I do think is really clear is that we're going to get it'll be a minority government in any case, and deals will have to be done with the likes of the independents and the Teals. When you look at it, the two-party preferred, you've got 51% that goes to Labor, 49% goes to Liberal National Coalition. But I think you'll see more swing towards the independents and the Teals, as we saw in March 2022. So I think that's going to continue.